Welcome to Fireside Chats with Wise on Home Inspections. I'm Trish, and I'll be your host for the next few minutes while you enjoy a cup of coffee. I'll do my best to make sure this mini presentation is over before you're done. Over the series, we will go over items that will stand out during a showing, and some items that may only come up because of the home inspection. These are higher cost items, which may impact the home's affordability. Having a few of these items in the same property may put your buyer in a financial situation they can't handle. So knowing that up front allows you and your buyer to be prepared in advance. Knowing what amperage a house has is an easy thing to look for and may have implications for your buyers. So why do we care about the amperage? Depending on how old the home is, the electrical usage at the time the home was built was likely very different to our electrical usage today. The main disconnect is the largest breaker that is usually separate from the group of breakers on a panel, as indicated by the yellow arrow. This panel happens to be installed with the main disconnect at the top, but you may find it at the bottom, on the left, or the right, depending on the install. There are some installations where the main disconnect is completely separate from the panel. The house amperage is written on the end of that breaker. You'll usually see 100, 125, 150, or 200 amps. It's rare, but sometimes in an old house you'll see 60 amps. In this case, contact insurance to see if they have any issues, and your buyer should know that it's likely too small to support today's home usage. Most new builds have a minimum of 125 amps, and for new single-family homes, you'll usually see 200 amps. 100 amps is adequate for most homes, but it really all depends on how the home is lived in. If there's a 100 amp panel and your buyer has 4 kids, each with their own TV and Xbox, and wants to install an air conditioner and a hot tub, then 100 amp may not be enough. If the buyer plans to install a suite and add a second dryer and a second stove, again, depending on the usage of the home, 100 amps may not be enough. In these scenarios, it's best to get an electrician to weigh in so the buyer can budget accordingly. Another thing to note in the panel is if the panel is full. The previous photo showed a very full panel. There wasn't much room to add more breakers. If the buyer is planning to do some renovations, this may come into play, and they should budget for some electrical work. It just means adding a sub-panel, but best to factor all of this in and get quotes in advance of subject removal if possible. Knob and tube wiring is a rare occurrence and generally would only be found in older homes pre-1950. Wires traveled through floor joists in cylinders called tubes and wrapped around knobs to prevent the wires from touching the wood. These two photos were taken in an unfinished basement in Kelowna North home in 2018. The one on the left shows the knob wiring connected to a junction box, and the photo on the right shows both knob and tube and modern-day wiring running next to each other. The knob and tube wires were live, so insurance will require this type of electrical supply to be removed. Sometimes you'll see the old knobs and tubes with no wiring. This is fine, as it's clearly no longer in use. If you see wires traveling between the knobs, be sure to have it tested to see if it's live. Best not to touch these wires with your bare hands, though. Appliances are beyond the scope of inspection because they could work today and something could break tomorrow. Even an appliance repair professional cannot predict when that will happen. Each inspector treats the testing of appliances differently. I turn them on so you have some kind of baseline and make a note if something is obviously wrong or broken. But we can't test them to make sure they clean the dishes properly or roast the turkey perfectly. A general rule of thumb is 10 years for most appliances. So if the home was built more than 10 years ago and the appliances don't look new, then unfortunately it's anyone's guess as to how long they will last. If you notice older appliances, you can help manage your buyer's expectations. Well, that's it for today. I hope you found it helpful and informative. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions or want to chat, please reach out. See you next time.